Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is Adamoose, and today we're going to be continuing our series called In Depth. This video is going to be an in-depth guide on Darius top lane.
Exploit every weakness.
In this series, we'll be going over what's the difference between an average Darius player and a great one. Darius is one of the most picked and banned top laners for a reason. If you're looking to improve on your Darius knowledge and mechanics, this is the video for you. If you do enjoy this video, it would really help me out if you could leave a like and subscribe to my channel. I'll be uploading an in-depth guide every Wednesday, so hit the notification bell to stay up to date with my posts. Hope you guys can learn something. Enjoy the video. Abilities. Darius' passive is called Hemorrhage. This is the core of his entire kit. Darius' attacks and damaging abilities cause the enemy to bleed, stacking up to 5 times. The more passive stacks the enemy has, the more bleed damage that they'll take. If you get 5 stacks on an enemy, you gain Noxian Might, gaining bonus AD and instantly applying 5 bleed stacks to any enemy hit. In the combo section, we'll discuss how to get 5 bleed stacks as fast as possible. Darius' Q is called Decimate. After a small delay, you swing your axe, dealing huge damage and healing you if enemies are caught in the outer circle. If enemies are only in the inner circle, your Decimate deals reduced damage and also does not apply a passive stack. You'll always want to max Q first, since it's your main damage, wave clear, and sustain tool in lane. Darius' W is called Crippling Strike. You empower your next auto attack, dealing bonus physical damage and gaining a slightly larger attack range. This also slows the enemy by a huge amount. It's important to know that your W is best used as an auto attack reset. Auto W is a quick burst trade that instantly applies 2 bleed stacks. If your target is killed from Crippling Strike, the mana cost is instantly refunded and the cooldown cut in half. This can be used to secure minion kills in lane without spending any mana. Darius' E is called Apprehend. You pull in all enemies in front of you, slowing them slightly. This is the most tricky ability to get used to in his kit, since it has a very long cooldown and quite a short range. Since Darius has no mobility built into his kit, landing your E is crucial to stick to your target and continue applying your bleed stacks to them. Keep in mind that your E does not actually apply a bleed stack itself, since it doesn't do damage. Apprehend also slightly CCs your target as they bounce back a bit. You can use this ability to guarantee that your Q lands in a dire situation. Darius players max E second, since the passive on this ability grants you bonus armor pen as well. Darius' R is called Noxian Guillotine. You leap to the enemy champion, dealing massive true damage. For every stack of bleed on the target, Noxian Guillotine deals extra damage. In an ideal world, you want to get 5 hemorrhage stacks on your target and then execute them with your ultimate. If you kill the target, you can recast Noxian Guillotine at no cost within the next couple seconds. This ability is what leads to Darius dunking on an entire enemy team. Combos. Now let's talk about Darius' most important combos. Using these in your games will instantly improve your win rate. Firstly, and most important, WQ and E auto WQ. These are the simplest ways to stack up your passive and cancel your animations. WQ is a short and simple way to cancel the full animation of your W. Since the enemy will get slowed, it'll allow you to hit your Q sweet spot much more consistently as well. E auto attack WQ is the best burst trade combo since it instantly applies 3 bleed stacks to your enemy. You pull in the opponent, autoing them, and then cancelling your attack animation with your W. You then cancel your W animation with your Q. If you catch someone slipping and land one of these, they'll most likely not win that trade. A lot of times you want to use your Ghost as soon as this hits, so you can run them down and finish them off at 5 stacks of bleed with your ultimate. Next would be Q Flash and R Flash. Using these in the right situations can easily catch your enemies off guard. Q Flash is the classic surprise combo that you want to be using pretty much every game. Keep in mind that you want to use your Q before your Flash, and that's very important. Flash Q will give your enemies much more time to react, which takes away the surprise factor. You can use this to finish off a low HP target, flash over a key ability, or even reposition yourself in a team fight to hit as many enemies as possible with your Q. R Flash is a pretty cool combo that lets you execute someone with your R and then reposition mid-animation to dodge key abilities or get in range to execute your second target instantly. Keep in mind that once you cast your R on a target, they'll still receive the damage even if they flash. This can lead to some extremely mad players who die and waste their flash. Runes. Now that we've gone over abilities and combos, let's talk runes. First off, Darius' most popular and also top performing keystone is Conqueror. Conqueror is just a perfect keystone for his all-in playstyle. Just like you want to be stacking up your passive bleed, you want to be stacking up your Conqueror to give yourself bonus damage and sustain so you can come out ahead in extended fights. I'll also mention Phase Rush since it can be decent in situations where the enemy team is extremely mobile. But in reality, Conqueror is the better choice 99% of the time. Triumph is the next best option since Darius thrives at executing enemies and then turning around close call situations. A well-timed Triumph heal can buy you enough time to execute another enemy or turn around a 1v2 fight when you get ganked. For the next rune, you'll want to pick up Legend Alacrity for scaling attack speed, or Legend Tenacity if the enemy team has a lot of crowd control. Keep in mind that Alacrity is the better rune to push towers in the side lane and win extended 1v1 fights. Lastly, you want to pick up Coup de Grace to aid in finishing off low HP targets, or Last Stand, which makes you deal more damage when low on HP. I prefer Last Stand since it synergizes very well with your Triumph and Q heals. Both options are very viable depending on your preference. The secondary tree is where it gets a bit confusing for Darius. Your secondary will depend on which summoner spell you take. Let's talk about my personal favorite option first, Sorcery with Ghost. With this setup, you'll always take Nimbus Cloak and Celerity. Once you use Ghost, you go really fast. This allows you to cover up for your lack of mobility with a huge burst of movement speed. This lets you stick to targets while chasing, allowing you to weave in auto attacks to stack up your passive bleed. Keep in mind that since you won't be running teleport, you need to be very mindful about how you manage your lane so you're not forced to have awkward recall timers. Now let's talk about Resolve Secondary. This is what Darius players usually run when they're playing with TP. You'll either take Second Wind versus heavy poke lanes such as Teemo, or Bone Plating in volatile melee matchups such as Renekton. To close out the Resolve page, I would recommend either Demolish for faster split pushing, or Unflinching for some extra tenacity versus teams with a ton of crowd control. Items. Now let's hop right into Darius' item choices. To start, you'll usually want to either pick up a Doran's Blade in lanes where you want to be pushing aggressively, or Doran's Shield where you want to make use of the passive sustain. I do not recommend taking anything else, since the bonus stats these items give make you as strong as possible in the early laning phase. Next up, there are two main choices for your first item, Trinity Force and Black Cleaver. Triforce is an all-around amazing damage item on Darius, since your kit makes great use of every single thing this item gives. The movement speed you get from Phage makes you a massive threat, since it negates some of Darius' mobility problems. Sheen also synergizes extremely well with your W, since you can easily make use of it in trades and while pushing towers. I would recommend Triforce if you're more comfortable on Darius and looking to assert your dominance in a side lane. Black Cleaver is also a great first item choice, but for different reasons. First off, it's a cheaper option, so if you're behind, I would really consider going Cleaver instead. It also gives you a way to cut down massive tanks such as Ornn or Scion with the armor shred it provides. It also just makes you much tankier compared to Triforce, so team fighting gets much easier. A cool tip is that your bleed will continue to proc Black Cleaver stacks since the damage will tick over time. Poking with your Q can set you up for an all-in while your enemy's armor has been reduced by 24% after a couple seconds. For boots, you'll usually want to pick up either Ninja Tabbies or Merc Treads, depending if you want tenacity or extra damage reduction versus auto attacks. Next item would usually be Sterax Gauge. This is a great second pickup since it works very well with your all-in playstyle. Not only the extra AD, but the shield that provides you with some survivability and tenacity that make you extremely scary to fight in a 1v1. To close out your build, Spirit Visage, Deadman's Plate, Death Dance, and Titanic Hydra are all some solid options. Your main goal is to get tanky so you can be effective in teamfights. Be very careful if you go Triforce first, since you'll be very easy to burst down. There are plenty of options depending on the situation, so it's going to take time to learn what items fit your playstyle best. Laning phase. Now this is where Darius shines. Your main goal is to win lane hard. To lane correctly, you must understand how to force the enemy to play into you, making them overextend and die to your all-ins. Keep in mind that laning starts at level 1. In melee matchups such as Aurelia, you can start W to trade heavily. You can catch a lot of low elo players off guard by just running them down with Ghost and W at level 1. Keep in mind you want to use your W as an auto attack reset to stack your passive much faster. If you're in a matchup where you can't do much level 1 such as Gnar, start Q and try and push the wave so you can reach level 2 first. Understanding how to manage your wave is extremely important to learn when playing such an aggressive champion. If your jungler is pathing top, you want to let your enemy push the wave near your tower, as it's going to force them to overextend, and then you can run them down. I see a lot of Darius players brainlessly pushing the wave over and over, which is usually not the right move. Darius has a huge weakness, which is his lack of mobility. If you're the one that's overextended and at the enemy's turret, you're just asking to get ganked and put behind. If you're winning trades and have your enemy low, you can pressure tower dives by calling your jungler and warding in the enemy jungle. Only make extremely aggressive plays when you know where everyone is on the map. Darius is all about knowing his limits. You're usually not looking for small trades since you don't run teleport. When you fight, you're looking to kill. Trading 50% of your health with the enemy is rarely worth unless your jungler is looking to come top and gank. In summary, Darius is a snowballing lane bully. If you go even or behind in lane, you're pretty much losing. If it gets to the late game, Darius struggles in teamfights compared to champs like Sion, and will usually lose in 1v1s to champs like Jax. A good Darius player will take the right all-ins at the right times, getting kills, drawing jungle pressure, and taking tower plates. Teamfights. Now let's talk teamfighting. In reality, you want to be avoiding teamfights as much as possible, unless you're super fed. The best way for Darius to win a teamfight is to make good use of your E. A flash E on multiple targets can lead to multiple resets and quick kills. You also want to look for some multi-man Qs to sustain as much as you can and tank up damage. Sometimes it's best to let your team lead the fight so you can clean up the low HP enemies after. In most cases, you want to be splitting top, drawing pressure from the other top laner, and then grouping with your team to try and force a 5v4. Think of it as a balancing act between drawing pressure top and not ditching your team. Weaknesses. Although Darius has a ton of strengths that we'll talk about, he has two main weaknesses that you must understand to succeed on the champ. First would be his lack of mobility. This makes Darius pretty easy to get kited when you don't have summoners. You're extremely reliant on your summoner spells to get in range of targets, especially later in the game. It's very important to keep track of enemies who do not have flash to cover up for this weakness. Second would be how hard he falls off. Although a lot of players hate Darius since he's super strong early on, once you get some games on him, you'll realize that a lot of times you'll win lane, but lose game. You must be extremely precise with your decisions in the mid game to make sure that the enemy has no chance to get back into it. Dying and giving up a shutdown in a crucial teamfight can throw huge leads that you make for yourself. A good objective to work towards is Dragon Soul, so make sure that you group up with your team at the right times. Strengths. And finally, let's talk about why Darius is such a highly contested pick who is feared by many. Darius is an absolute nightmare in lane, especially if you're able to counterpick. A lot of champions just cannot deal with Darius's all-in power. A good example would be a champ like Sion, who has no escape and who loses extended fights. If you manage the wave correctly, you could pretty much use Ghost on cooldown to pick up kills. Next would be how Darius is kind of a noob stomping champion. I recommend low elo players to play Darius for this exact reason. If you're not familiar with Darius's kill potential, it is so easy to make a mistake, which gets you killed, and then instantly the lane is just unplayable. Keep in mind that these mistakes will get more and more unlikely the higher elo that you become. And last is Darius's extreme snowball potential. When you get ahead, you become a killing machine. If played correctly, you can draw a ton of attention top lane and even turn 1v2s around. An experienced Darius player can hover the line of playing super aggressive, but also smart. That will do it for my in-depth guide on Darius top lane. If you stayed to the end and have any questions or opinions, be sure to leave them in the comments below. If you did enjoy, it helps me out so much if you could like the video and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell if you want to stay up to date with my posts. I post gameplay guides pretty much daily, and I'll be posting an in-depth guide every week. Thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Peace out.